Hey guys, it's Jeff with San Diego Seed Company, back with another video. It's fall. It's actually Halloween. It's the spookiest day of the year today that when we're recording. And today we were talking about everybody's favorite food. Is it a food? Yeah, it's a food. It's like a spice, a bulb. I don't know what it is, but it's everybody's favorite. It's got to be one of the most healthy things that you can eat. It's garlic. Today, we're going to tell you everything that you need to know to grow it, but I really want to focus on 3 things that I do every single year to get awesome harvests, so let's get right into it. Okay, quiet on set, and action. Tip number 1 is a word that you're going to be able to use and sound so smart. I don't even really know exactly what it means, but I know in practice it means to make things cold, and that is vernalization, or to vernalize your garlic. That is our first tip today. Since we live in such a warm climate in zone 9 and 10, the fall and winter doesn't ever really get cold enough to activate the garlic. So what we do here is trick it. I'm going to take all my garlic bulbs that I'm going to plant out this year and put them in the fridge for 3 months. Now that takes quite a bit of planning, because if we are planting on October 31st, can I do months backwards? September, August, July. So it's like the dead of summer and you're thinking about garlic, which is kind of counterintuitive. But if you remember to put them in the fridge, you're going to have a much better chance at these actually sprouting and growing, as opposed to if you just took them off the shelf and didn't let them get cold first. Now, full disclosure, I have not vernalized these bulbs. Oh no, what's going to happen? I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I'm doing it as a test, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. I literally just forgot to put them in the fridge this year. I'm still going to plant them out and we'll see what happens. Now, in our research, we've found that 3 months is ideal, because what you're trying to do is simulate a winter. In our case, making the winter happen in the summer so that we can plant it in our quote-unquote spring and give it all the summer to grow. We just have to be kind of funky here in zone 9 and 10 because we don't have normal seasons like the rest of the country does. So by putting it in by 3 months, you're simulating winter. We have seen studies that say 6 to 8 weeks. If you forget, it's still going to be better than nothing. So if you're late to the game on vernalization, still put it in the fridge, give it the best chance it can to vernalize and give you those big beefy bulbs. Big beefy bulbs. We're going to step aside from my pro tips and just talk about planting garlic. So what are you going to need to plant garlic? You're going to need some kind of growing medium. In this case, we're going to plant it in ground. As you can see, this bed has been turned over. I took all the mulch off. In our other videos about turning over beds, definitely go and check those out, because you're going to want to do all 12 of those steps before you even plant garlic. So you've taken your tomatoes or your warm season crops out. You're going to need a little revitalization to your soil. I've already done that, so that's not going to be in this video, but I will say that garlic needs well-draining soil with organic matter in it. That's true for almost every plant, but especially for garlic, you want the soil to be well-draining, because garlic does not take nearly as much water as a lot of other plants in the garden. If they get too wet or they're sitting in too moist soil, then the bulbs are just going to start rotting and they're not going to grow. If you have irrigation like this, maybe consider installing a valve on the end of it so you can turn this off, so the rest of your garden will get water, but you want to kind of isolate whatever the watering system is for your garlic, because like I said, it's not going to need as much water as everything else. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is flatten the area. You don't want a lot of pockets for water to fall into, and you don't want it to be uneven. You don't want the water running downhill, because then the top of the hill won't be nearly as moist. So you want even watering. So I'm going to take this, I call it a weed wedge. If you guys want to, drop in the comments what this actual tool is called. This is something for weeding. So you sometimes see people in big fields just getting the small weeds while they're at their thread stage, and they're just getting them out of there with this. The main reason I'm using this is because I let a friend borrow our only garden rake. So the way I look at it, I'd rather get somebody addicted to gardening and give them our tools than worry about having tools myself. So I'm willing to sacrifice and use this tool kind of out of place, but as you see, all I'm trying to do, get the weeds up and flatten this area, break up a lot of the clumps, and kind of mix in some of the water that I have watered throughout the last week, just to get the bed evenly moist. Okay, so I've got a lot of the clumps out. What I'm going to do is kind of give myself a visual guide for where I'm going to plant the garlic and really loosen up this soil right here in a straight line, right underneath where our irrigation is going to lay.
It's like those battle ropes at the gym where you go.
Yeah. Alright, now we're ready to plant. If you have bought garlic from us, you will recognize this packaging. It comes in a nice, breathable, brown paper bag. Because we're fancy at San Diego Seed Company, but we don't like a lot of fluff. All you need is a way to transport it. So this is what it's going to come in. We've said this in our previous garlic videos that buying seed garlic is, we think, more advantageous than just using garlic that you bought at the store, mainly because of the varieties. The garlic that you buy in the store is all probably the same one or two different varieties, so you're not going to get a lot of variety when it comes to taste, size, color, etc. When you're buying from us, this happens to be the hardneck music variety. You're not going to get this at the store. This is another hardneck. I have no idea what it is, but it's whatever my dad grew last year back in Indiana, so we're going to see how this variety does in Zone 10. So let's get into how to plant it. Okay, let's go over a little terminology. This whole thing is a bulb, and then if you've ever used it in a recipe, you've heard the word clove before. So a bulb is just made up of a bunch of cloves. So we've got one clove here, and then let's look at the anatomy of this. If you noticed how I took it out of the bulb, it came out right like that. So if you're looking at this, you know this goes up, this is the stem, these are the roots. So when you plant it, you want to plant root side down. That's very important. If you put root side up, the roots are going to have to go all the way around, and then the greenery is going to have to come all the way up. It's not going to work. So definitely be wary of how you plant it, root side down every time. Okay, so as you can see, we've got all of our garlic ready. I wanted to bring your attention to one troubleshooting problem that you can come across. Remember earlier when I said I did not vernalize? This is something that can happen. I kept the garlic in my office, actually really close to the grow lights, which can get a little warmer. There's a little more moisture in that room. So what has happened is this garlic that was perfectly fine when I got it has started to rot. So I could try to grow these, but I can just tell you, just by looking at it and feeling it, it's starting to get a little soft, it's a little brown. These are not going to sprout. But it all is not lost, because half the bulb is still good. So you can see this, it's bright, whitish yellow. You can even see green on the top starting to want to come out. So this is going to do just fine. This is going to do just fine, but some of these other brown ones may or may not come up. I can see green in this one, so I'm going to give them a shot to see if they go, but definitely keep on the lookout for any clove that is starting to brown and feel soft. That may have already started to rot, and you're not going to want to plant it. Okay, so as you can see, I've got 18 ready to plant. Let's talk about spacing. So spacing down into the dirt is 2 to 4 inches deep. Spacing apart is 4 to 8 inches apart. So I'm going to just pick right in the middle, put them 6 inches apart. That's 2 per feet. So if I've got 18 cloves, that means I can plant 9 feet of garlic. So let's get into that now to see what that looks like.
I'm a drone.
Okay, so if you have good, well-draining, fluffy soil, you're not going to need any tools. You can just use your hands. I'm going to see how good our soil is over here. So I'm just going to go down 2 inches. Your knuckle is about 1 inch, so I'm going to go 2 knuckles, maybe knuckle and a half. It doesn't have to be exact, because remember, we're looking for 2 to 4 inches deep. So I'm going to take my possibly going to sprout garlic here, root side down, stem side up. I'm just going to pop it in there. That's not 2 inches deep. Let's go a little deeper. Yeah, maybe I do need a shovel. I don't have that great of soil over here. But pop that down in there, cover it up, and you're all good to go. I'm going to put this marker in here for whenever I go to plant later. I know where that first one is. But at this point, I'm just going to go down the line, plant the rest of them, and then we're going to water them in. Okay, so in the 3 seconds that I looked for one, I couldn't find a shovel, but I'm going to use this stake because it's going to be able to poke a hole just as well. So this is, I think this is a 9-inch stake. Yeah, this is a 9-inch stake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy crock off, and I know that that's a foot, so I'm going to put one there, then I'm going to put one there. So now that I have this foot eyeballed, so now that I have this foot measured out, I can kind of eyeball it the rest of the way down because I visually get a sense of what is 6 inches. So let's plant the rest of these suckers. Sweet potato.
Oh,
Missed that guy.
we're eating tonight.
Okay, so let's think about what I just did. And that is, I turned 2 bulbs of garlic into 18 different future bulbs of garlic. That's one thing I love about garlic so much, is that you can multiply it year after year after year. If you're on a deserted island, you'd be eating garlic for the rest of your life.
We're rolling.
Okay, let me breathe.
No breathing.
Okay. Okay, so that's how you plant garlic. Let's get back to my top 3 tips, things that I do every year. Now, vernalization was number 1. I didn't do it this year, and you saw I paid the price, but luckily I got some extra garlic. I'm still going to be okay there. Tip number 2 has to do with water. We said earlier that garlic doesn't need quite as much water as other plants. That's true, but also about 2 weeks before you're going to harvest, right around the time that the leaves start to turn yellow, that's a really good sign that the bulbs are not going to get any bigger. Its life cycle is kind of over, and it's going to just stop growing, really. At that moment, you're going to want to some way take your irrigation off of the garlic, because if you leave that irrigation going and it continues to water and that soil stays moist, the bulbs are going to start to rot, and that's not what you want. You want really hard, hardy garlic, and that's only going to happen if the soil starts to dry out a little bit. So 2 weeks before you harvest, go ahead and turn that water off. So let's quickly talk about time. Garlic is one of those plants that takes a long time to mature. So we're planting them on Halloween. We're not going to harvest them until the middle of the summer, June or July. Think 6 to 9 months. So that's a long time. That is a lot of garden real estate that I'm not going to be able to plant any summer crops at all in that space because there's going to be garlic there. So one thing that I do to make that not quite as painful to lose all that space is I go ahead and plant my onions there too, so then I know that this bed is completely out of commission for the warm season because it's going to be maturing those cool season garlic and onions. Okay, so tip 3 has to do with after you've harvested. Now, as soon as you harvest them, they're ready to eat. You can put a few in your kitchen. You can start cooking with them right away. But if you want them to last, don't take the leaves off. Cut the roots maybe an inch off, keep the whole bulb together, and you're going to want to hang them upside down, leaves down, outside or somewhere that's in the shade. You don't want it directly in the sun. With any curing process, the sun is not going to be good. You just want good airflow, dry air if possible. You really want them to dry out so that they don't rot when you're trying to store them for the winter. So if you follow those 3 tips, vernalization, turning the water off, and then curing them, you're going to have garlic for the whole year.